Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and this is the audio version of Tales from the Triverse. Today's chapter is Best Laid Plans, Part 2. Brulia, 3208, bright sun. Smoke rose from the city, still far from the palace and concentrated on the outskirts, but coming closer by the hour. The insurgents had crossed the bridge and were entering the central mesa. Something had gone wrong, with Chancellor Everard Balteen's orders having been compromised, and now matters were worse. He had told them to burn the lower city in a firestorm, which would have wiped out the attackers in one sweep. Insurrection within the ranks, then. There would be punishments to mete out when it was over. If his own city guard could not be relied upon, he could still turn to the Mid-Earth forces. Their mechanistic weaponry was crude and primitive, but it got the job done, with an efficiency he couldn't deny. Critically, they would hold the line at the university, its campus so conveniently located with the portal station. Balteen stormed through the palace, unable to quell his rage. The rebels were supposed to be a disorganized network of small, ineffectual cells, not a coherent army. It was a catastrophic intelligence failure. The lord of the city should not be watching his own domain falling street by street to thugs and murderers. Still, this day would be decisive. Brulia may have been taken by surprise by the timing and size of the assault, but there was no city-state quite like it. It wouldn't be like the pathetic fall of Blue Towers, its leaders so easily deposed. Balteen's grasp extended across the Triverse and would not be stopped by amateurs. If it came to it, he would level the city, like he'd levelled Tapu. Cleaning an infestation required extreme measures. When word had arrived of Matheson's death, Balteen had been unsurprised and unmoved. The man had been a bore, consumed by his own hubris, and had nearly unravelled their plans numerous times. The American had a big mouth and a big ego, and Balteen was not sorry to see him go. That the AI had been the one to do it was concerning, but such were the benefits of living on Palinor, the one dimension where the megaships had no presence. Balteen was happy to make use of Max Earth's technological terrors in order to achieve his ambitions, but ultimately the superintelligences were an unsolvable problem. Max Earth was already a doomed reality, even if they had yet to recognize that fact. Subjugated and enthralled to their own creations, a fate that would never befall Balteen or the Palinese. Opening a cabinet, he poured himself a drink. Thick and amber-coloured, it glinted in the afternoon sun. Sipping from the glass, he stared out the window at the smoke plumes on the horizon. There would be a reckoning, and his enemies would lament raising a fist to him. The time for quiet manoeuvring was over. There was a knock at the door, a captain of the city guard. "Ah, good," Balteen said, glancing over but remaining at the window. "I was about to send for you. Order the Mid-Earth divisions that are guarding the university and the portal station to advance on the insurgents. I want them wiped out. All of them." There was a momentary silence. A pause from the captain. "That's why I'm here, Lord Chancellor. The Mid-Earth forces." "Yes? What is it?" "They're withdrawing, returning back through the portal to Mid-Earth. Trouble back home?" A rage grew within Balteen, and the glass in his hand warped and collapsed in on itself, shattering into pieces but without falling to the floor. They clumped together into a ball of crystal, the remaining liquid dancing around it. Smaller and smaller the crushed glass became, as he stared at it, channeling his anger into the spell. The fools on Mid-Earth were going to ruin everything. Lola Stiles was acutely aware that people were fighting, and most probably dying, somewhere across the city, in a deadly feint to draw the city guard away from the university and the portals. It was assumed that the attacking force would not reach that far, and would be stopped or at least slowed down. It was left to them to sneak through the streets, moving unseen away from the main conflict. They were making good progress. The team included Yana, Slava, Maxim and Zlati, plus half a dozen Okehu fighters. They were a powerful bunch, but the real trick was not having to demonstrate that power and reaching their destination undetected. There was enormous pressure on Yana. Once they reached the university and the site of the original experiment, she would be the one to recreate it, and hopefully complete it. While that was happening, it would be up to the rest of them to keep her safe. Lola didn't like the idea of the entire fate of the war of the Triverse itself resting on the shoulders of one person. That wasn't a responsibility that anyone should have to weigh. Christian had injected uncertainty into the plan itself, which was unlike him. He wished for the portals to be closed, for Palinor to be alone once again, and free from foreign interference. Lola had always wanted to visit Palinor, to live there, ever since she was a child and learned about the Triverse in school. But the idea of being trapped there, of never being able to return home, left her unmoored and anxious. She had no influence over Yana, no real understanding of the spell, and wouldn't know what she'd chosen until after it was done. She kept pace with the others, acutely aware of her vulnerability. Less trained, less naturally skilled, she could absorb the magic from others, her Vain-Ka gift always lurking behind her fingertips. But without siphoning and stealing from another, she was just a normal mid-earther. Her thoughts continually strayed to the battle on the other side of the city, where Darila fought alongside Christian and Lacazro and everyone else. The Six Blades were with them somewhere. Thousands of others had travelled from across the continent to mount this final battle. It had to work, because to fail this fight would be to lose everything. She felt herself existing in a limbo state, a purgatory of unknowns, in which everything was possible and nothing had yet been determined. They could be victorious or fail. Darila could survive or be killed. All of Lola's team could be wiped out before setting foot on the university campus. So many variables, so much chaos, and all of them trying to find the one route through that would lead them out the other side. That was without even considering Clark back in London. If they didn't do their part, it would be exponentially more difficult to bypass the university's defences. Distraction upon distraction. She wished she was yet another distraction, or could be distracted away from her morbid thoughts. Flashes of dead faces filled her mind's eye, all of her friends fallen and bloodied. No, she'd been through worse, had been torn apart and rebuilt. Old Lola would have crumbled under the pressure, but she was different. But she was a different person now, harder, tougher, more determined, more compromised. She was the version of Lola that was needed for the times. When it was all over, she hoped enough of her old self would have survived, hidden deep within, waiting to be rediscovered. Thanks for listening. You can leave comments, find lots more Triverse and all sorts of other bits to do with writing serial fiction over on the newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com.